Welcome to Off the Clock, the webcast of employment attorneys at Miller Johnson, where we discuss what is happening in the HR world and provide practical insight and advice. We are your co-hosts, Rebecca Strauss and Sarah Willey, two employment lawyers who spend their days guiding employers through all of the challenges that workplaces offer. Well, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
Good, Rebecca. And we have, for our listeners, we have our colleague John Koryto here today. Welcome, John.
Yeah, thanks. Longtime listener, and glad to be here as a as a presenter, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
We're on the hot seat.
Tough vetting process to get you in. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of competition. Which show are we going to have you on? We've got one either that has just aired or will air called The Jerk.
Go ahead. I wasn't selected for that one.
You almost made the cut
Yeah.
for that episode. But we decided to have you on for a topic that is really going to solve the needs of a lot of our clients, right, Sarah? What is going on in the world today that John can help people?
Yes, I am really excited about this because actually I think I'm going to learn a lot on this episode as well. So the problem is this: hiring, right? Finding people to fill open positions in almost any industry right now. So John is our colleague who specializes in immigration law. And I'll be honest, I've spent a lot of time talking to clients recently about, and specifically HR folks, about the real challenges they're having filling manufacturing jobs, filling teacher positions, healthcare, service industry, right? It's across the board now. And it had not, until I talked to John recently, it had not, I had not appreciated enough the opportunities that immigration can provide to HR folks to help fill those roles, okay? And so I thought, we got to have John on this podcast to help our poor HR folks who are being told, right, every day that they got to do better in hiring and recruiting, and they got to do better in hiring and recruiting, and it feels like an impossible job. So that's why we have John today. So, John, why don't we start out with you talking about the types of industries now that could potentially take advantage of immigration processes to get people in the workplace?
Sure. Well, I would say it's really across the board. Majority of our time, just because the need, the demand, the pressure has been there for quite some time, is in the healthcare sector, from physicians, physical therapists, but down the line to medical technologist. Healthcare needs computer science individuals and IT as well. So healthcare's been a heavy user of our immigration services. But really any employer, any industry that has those particular needs, I would say the professional jobs, and for immigration law purposes, that means a job that requires a bachelor's degree or higher, are the bulk of our work.
So for our school clients, teachers?
Teachers, just last week, the power of social media, we did a client alert about something called the H-1B visa lottery. Many employers, unfortunately, have to literally sign up for a lottery for the most commonly used visa classification. But nonprofits, many educational systems are nonprofits, and they have an opportunity. I'm oversimplifying a bit,
thank you.
Yeah.
That's for us, not for our audience necessarily.
Well, and he did say, let's try to keep it to a half an hour, so we'll talk high level.
Impossible to oversimplify for us.
Yes. But just this past week, we started on 3 new immigration matters for teachers. And teachers fit a couple different opportunities.
Public school teachers.
Public school teachers.
That's incredible.
That's incredible.
I had not heard of public schools using immigration
Yeah.
as a pipeline to fill their labor needs.
It's a challenge because our neighbors to the north, Canada, and teachers are on the list for, we still say NAFTA, even though it's now the U.S., Mexico, Canada Free Trade Agreement. We still call them TN visas. But a TN visa can be used to bring, here in Michigan, we would say down from Canada or Mexico as well. Both those countries, though, are in a high demand for teachers as well.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, but an opportunity.
It should certainly be, in my opinion, in the toolbox
Yes.
for HR individuals to be trying to bring new people in. And teachers in particular is just compelling to me because you guys probably have read this as well, but there's an anticipated teacher shortage that's happening now, but the metrics show, I think in like three to 4 years, we're going to have a big problem on our hands, right?
Yes.
So if I'm an HR person right now in a school district, this is the time, right, John, to be thinking about using immigration to try to solve that problem, or as a tool to solve that problem.
The timing is good. In one, I think, great opportunity that's a missed opportunity for many employers is we have thousands of students, international students, already here at U.S. colleges,
That's
U.S.
a great
universities.
point.
And without paying anything to Miller Johnson or other immigration counsel, employers can utilize what's called optional practical training. The student and international student services offices will coordinate that. It's a form of work authorization, nominal administrative work for the HR team. Wow. And, well, it's not a free look because obviously you're paying the individual, but from an immigration standpoint, it is kind of a free look, no obligations for long-term sponsorship. Wow. If Rebecca's a recent grad or about to graduate, we could bring her onto our faculty team, see how good a fit she is for our organization, see if we can convince her to stay here longer term. And that's when HR should be contacting the Immigration Council saying, we have Rebecca, she's been teaching a semester with us. We're running out of time on the student visa work authorization. What's the longer term solution?
Okay. So let me back up. If I'm an HR person listening to this right now, right, and a light bulb just went off in their head, they went, yes, that's what I need to do. What do they need to do to take advantage of that program specifically? Should they call you and you help them get into contact with the schools, or do they reach out to schools
That's
directly?
certainly an option, and we're using the teacher example, but it's really, and the example I'm using is bachelor's degree program or the master's programs or a PhD program. All of those students have what's called post-completion optional practical training. Now we say training, it's just a form of work authorization.
Yeah, they just keep working. They graduate and keep working. So these HR folks could hire them to do that training. How do they find them?
On campus. And this is
like just
be more specific.
Well,
like just hang out at the union or what?
Good question. So
I don't want to get them arrested, right?
It can be a little creepy.
Yeah.
Campus.
Well,
But
you
mentioned-
got to be creative nowadays.
Okay, so they go, so they connect with the schools directly.
Yes, so many schools, I gave a talk at our local school, Western Michigan University, about a month ago, because they're hiring, their on-campus recruitment season is about to start.
Okay.
So the on-campus recruitment or dealing with the placement services offices, great resources.
Oh, wow.
But a call to us as well.
And
is
you can
certainly an
help put them
opportunity.
on the right path
Exactly,
to get to
exactly.
connect with the right people, right? If you're here in Kalamazoo, there's, I mean, in almost any area, there's a local college or university at least nearby.
Right.
That would seem to be a great starting point. So that's fantastic. Okay, Rebecca, you had a question.
I do, because I am like Sarah, right? Don't do a lot of employment-related immigration, and putting myself in the seat of our viewers, I think of two things. I think of time, and I think of money, right? And isn't it easier just to try to fill my open positions other ways? Nowadays, as Sarah mentioned, maybe not, right? But can you give us a sense, first of all, let's just talk about the timing it takes. From the moment I listen to the podcast, and I decide this is a great opportunity for me to fill some positions. And I'm going to reach out to John. How long until I can expect to have someone actually in that position working?
So timing can be a challenge. With proper training of our recruiting staff, though,
Right.
We can, I think, effectively manage those. So if we're on campus now or hitting the campus recruitment efforts, for the most part, that student visa work authorization is a 3-month to 4-month process. It used to be reliably
okay.
3 months.
That's much better than I
Yeah,
thought
it's
you were
taking
going
a
to
little
say.
bit longer.
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
There are certain types of work authorization that, I can't say immediate, but
Okay.
essentially immediate, where the school endorses the work authorization, like when an internship,
Okay.
we call it curricular practical training. And we have worked with area organizations to essentially do that. Engineers are in short supply, so they'll bring on that junior or senior before they graduate, utilizing this curricular practical training as a paid internship. So it's a great opportunity to evaluate how good of a long-term fit will this individual be.
Yeah.
And then they have it lined up, and they know the timing now. They know when to call us and say, we have 4 students on board with curricular practical training. 3 are stars that we want to move forward. Sometimes sponsor a green card right away. Sometimes that works out, or move to this H-1B visa for an interim 3-year to 6-year time frame. So timing is critical.
Okay.
The student curricular practical training for those internships is just lining up
It's just
paperwork with
paying
the
them,
school.
right? Paying the
Yeah,
student.
and coordinating with International Student Services. But it's not what I would call a heavy lift at all.
Right.
Not at all. The other types of work authorization, yes, 3 months, 6 months. Our H-1B visa, just to
What is that, John? What's an H-1B visa?
so these are paragraphs of the Immigration and Naturalization Act. So there's an H sub 1 sub B, which is specialized knowledge workers.
Okay.
That really means
Specialized knowledge workers.
it really means a job that requires a bachelor's degree
Got it.
or higher.
HB1, did you say?
At H-1B.
HC, that's how bad I am at this. H1B, B for bachelor's.
Yeah,
Good way to
that's a good
remember
way to
it?
think about
Okay,
it.
got it. That's
So,
how simple
so
it is.
most employers, if you're not a nonprofit organization, they need to be calling us now, because we
Okay.
literally have a March 1 until March 18 time frame to register for a lottery selection process.
Okay, for those. And this is separate than the internships you were talking
Exactly.
about.
This is
This is
something
a different option.
This is the transitional longer-term visa.
Okay.
So we have the H-1B we've talked about, TN, we still say TN for Treaty NAFTA, which is Canadian citizens, Mexico citizens.
Okay.
Multinational employers should be looking to, I don't want to say steal, but borrow talent from abroad.
Uh-huh.
We have intra-company transfers, which we laugh, but it's a global struggle in many areas. And to tell Rebecca, well, we're going to bring you, Rebecca, from your position in London for a 3-year stint in the U.S., you may find that attractive. That may
Sure.
help stay with our organization, and then we'll rotate you back. There may be training opportunities that are advantageous. So that's another, I'd say, underutilized retention and recruitment tool.
Okay. Yeah, you've got lots of ideas.
We have L1Bs, just another paragraph, which is, we still say specialized knowledge, but it can be proprietary. It doesn't have to necessarily be a job that's
Okay.
a bachelor's degree or higher.
Okay.
So we talked about the opportunity perhaps for schools, right, to use you. What about, I'm thinking of the other industries for clients in whom I know are just struggling with this. So you talked about healthcare, lots of options. We talked about schools. What about manufacturing and the service industries?
Yeah.
Do you see opportunities here
I
for them
do,
too?
and we're getting more calls the past year because of the challenge of hiring. I would say historically, the cost of involving immigration law counsel for lower skilled or semi-skilled jobs, the math just didn't work.
Yeah, well, not so much anymore.
Not so much
Because now they
now.
can't run a shift because they don't have enough human
Right.
beings present to do it.
And
right?
we can coordinate so that there's some economy of scales.
Okay.
Or frankly, we have plenty of work, so if we can train the HR team to kind of run with the process after we train them up, and then we'll, be involved to the extent is necessary in the future. That's been a successful model too, where there's certainly some upfront cost, but if we know that need's going to be there for years, let's get the HR team trained up so they can also take advantage of another subparagraph of paragraph H, which is temporary seasonal workers under this H2B program, just another paragraph. Whereas, in contrast to the H1B, which is really professional jobs, the H2 is temporary seasonal, so it doesn't have to have that professional component.
What do you mean by seasonal? Can it be just when we know we've got a certain client demand, for instance, we're going to require extra shifts for 3 months, but then we know that
Like
client
accounting,
demand's gonna-
accountants say
Yeah.
during tax season.
Exactly.
Could that be?
Yes, and we've used it for construction. It has to be a definite start and stop,
Okay.
less than a year.
Okay.
Now, the hospitality industry,
I was going to say, I mean, the service and
they've gotten this
hospitality
down.
industry.
That's why you
Sure.
see the international name badges, because they know
Yeah.
they have a season, and every year,
Got
they're putting in multiple applications, and they just have it down. They have the same workers, often
Okay.
coming back, who are then out of a cap or quota.
Okay.
So yes, it's something that we've helped area golf resorts with that type of need, just not enough local labor.
You had a great example that we were chatting about recently, John, and it involved people to clean Airbnb rentals.
Yeah.
Right. Talk about that, because that really, when you talked about that, a light bulb went off in my head, and I realized that my view of when businesses might use immigration is completely wrong. That there are, that quite frankly, and there are opportunities out there that are much broader and deeper than people realize. So tell our listeners about that.
It makes our immigration life interesting. We can be working on a visa application for a pulmonary critical care physician, one part of the morning to literally entry-level cleaning staff for an Airbnb operation, because we got a call from internal referral that helps with very high-end vacation homes. And so we started talking about, well, it might cost you $12,000 to $15,000. The response was, the rentals on these homes are $200,000 to $300,000 per year. So it's not just, the math certainly works there. So the issue is there a temporary seasonal need?
Yep.
And so most vacation homes,
unfortunately, in Michigan,
are
there's
seasonal.
definitely a temporary seasonal need, right?
Yeah, exactly. So industry, there's really no limitation. I mean, the limitation or the requirements are articulating this is a temporary seasonal need. It could be a project. We've helped with manufacturing, where they had a new product,
a new line
coming online, and they could definitely say, our rollout period is 6 months or 7 months, and that's why we need labor to come up or labor from outside the United States.
Could a business create an artificial season? For instance, an indoor manufacturing business where the business doesn't really rely on the weather, right? Like vacation rentals, et cetera, in Michigan. Could they decide these are going to be our busy months, right? And we're going to double our workforce, increase it 150% and just kill it, maybe pay for warehouse space, right? A little extra, because then we're going to have too much on hand. But if they could get a supply of seasonal workers to knock out those products during that period, is that the sort of thing businesses could consider?
They could. The challenge we're having from the immigration regulation framework is temporary. The need has to be temporary.
But could reoccur every year?
Could it recur?
Yeah. If we can articulate this is seasonal,
working here from
right?
Or auto, the auto industry definitely has a season, and so if you're an automotive supplier,
it's exactly what I'm thinking. Right. We don't have to think about seasonal as the Airbnbs or the resorts on Lake Michigan.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Manufacturers could have recurring.
Right.
And are there agencies or third parties that help create pipelines or help employers find pipelines of employees overseas?
Yes. So the nursing, registered nurses, in particular, that's been a long time foreign recruitment operation. More recently, we're seeing expanded opportunities, well, in particular right now with manufacturing, there's agencies that are working with the refugee resettlement.
Yes.
And so you have individuals that have work authorization already in hand from the U.S. government.
Because they're a refugee.
Exactly.
So they come with work authorization.
The refugee status
Has work
grants
authorization.
work authorization.
Wow.
So no employer
Great pipeline.
sponsorship. And you know, it's
No
not like
seasonal
it happens all the time, but I've been doing this a bit longer than you guys have, so I can remember.
Well, we just started now.
Yeah. But
Clearly
yeah,
babies.
sure. So I am.
Tell us more, Father.
Yeah, there's well, it's 30 years this year. So.
Yeah, right.
Congratulations.
There's couple area manufacturers that if you go back 30 years, Vietnam was still a lot of
Sure.
resettlement
I'm thinking
here.
Afghan refugees
Right now, that
That's
is
our
the
most
talk.
recent
And there are
wave of
organizations
refuge.
in West Michigan, actually throughout our state, that that's their job, is to help with these refugee resettlements, including finding employment.
Okay.
And so what we've seen historically, more recently there was a number of refugees from Burma, Myanmar, in the Battle Creek area.
Yeah, I was going to say specifically in Battle Creek.
Yeah, so we've heard, and it's anecdotal, but very positive feedback from those employers that they gain.
Yeah.
A very appreciative workforce.
Yes.
I mean, think about it. If you're a refugee, new
Yeah.
to this country, and you have a new job, that tends to gain loyalty
Yeah,
and
I second
appreciation.
that. I second that as well. Right, working through, of course, some of the details like language and things like that. But in terms of individuals who have a desire to come to work and perform the work they're asked, it's a huge success.
Right, and we have state government agencies, federal agencies, and many nonprofits that are also helping to support those
individuals.
workers
Okay,
and their
so again,
families.
we have an HR person who's listening to this today, right? And he or she is thinking, "Oh my God, that's a great idea. How can we make this connection for them, John? Again, should they reach out to you and you can help put them in
certainly
contact
do
with
that.
agencies?
Yeah, we have
okay.
the emails and the addresses for those organizations.
Okay.
A good internet search will lead you to Samaritas, Bethany Christian Services, are two
Okay.
West Michigan agencies working with those refugees already. Yeah, so we're happy to make that
So a
connection as well.
manufacturer could reach out to Samaritas or Bethany Christian Services and say, "Hey, how can we partner
Exactly.
and hire some of the people you're
Right.
helping to resettle?"
And the normal,
Love this.
evaluation
This is so good.
process to make sure it's a good fit all still applies.
Uh-huh.
One other thing just that comes top of mind to me that I hear as to why we haven't, as an organization, used the immigration tool, I like that analogy,
Right.
is a misconception as to cost.
Okay.
An H-1B can be $6,000 to maybe $10,000 if there's some complications or challenges, but that's a 3-year visa. We
Right.
can
So
renew
you-
it for 3 years more.
And an H-1B, again, is somebody who has...
Professional
What
level.
did you say? Professional, yes. Some sort of-
Bachelor's.
So that's a
bachelor's or
higher level
Right.
position. So
Right.
you're getting, okay. So that, I agree with you.
Yeah, the H2.
I think many businesses
Yeah.
would be more than willing to pay that.
The H-2Bs, often we can gain some efficiencies by having a number of people trying to fill the same type of job, so
Yeah.
we're not,
Mm-hmm. Recreating the
multiplying.
wheel
Exactly.
every time. Mhm.
But the other misconception is, well, if I open this up, then don't I have to hire all foreign nationals that are applying? Or is the standard that I couldn't find enough U.S. teachers or U.S. engineers or computer scientists? And in the confusion arises, I believe, because there is there is a requirement when an employer is sponsoring the green card or permanent resident status. Only in the green card / permanent residence do we have to demonstrate we first
That you tried
tried
to hire somebody.
to hire a U.S.
Ah.
citizen. But with the
That's a
H-1B,
mistake I've made. And
Yeah.
with the
Yes, for
H-1B,
sure.
we don't have that.
Ah.
And we can pick and choose. We can say, well, this engineering role is really tough to find. They're tough to fill. But maybe the other engineering roles, we have enough of a supply, so to speak. And so we don't,
Right.
I've had them say, no offense, John, we don't want to pay legal fees for this other role that we can readily fill. I'm like, hey, no offense taken. We'll help you when you need our help. So,
Right.
so I think that's a misconception that I have to sponsor, or I have to demonstrate that I couldn't find U.S. workers first. And the answer is no. You can still pick the best and brightest. If you have a talented foreign national that you think is a better fit, hire that person.
That's amazing.
Perfectly legal to
I
do.
just love this so much because I can tell you, I've talked to so many HR people, Rebecca, you probably feel the same way, who just honestly feel like they're being asked to do the impossible, right? Which is find people to fill these positions. Again, whatever, fill in the blank for the industry in healthcare. They're being asked to fill vacant nursing jobs, manufacturing, service, teachers, et cetera. And it's really disheartening. So I just love the idea that there are options out there for them that they didn't even know are available.
John, on behalf of our listeners and viewers, I think there may be some confusion about whether there's the relationship, the at-will relationship changes when they hire someone
that's
through
such
the
a good
employment
question.
Status, right? Can they still, if the person's not working out, terminate the employment before the term of the visa is over, for instance, or are they stuck?
Yeah, no, that's a
with this
great
person?
question. And I think it's one of those areas of confusion that pose a barrier unnecessarily to the hiring of foreign nationals and utilizing whether it's the H-1B or some of these other visa types. So the H-1B, that's the most common one. From the HR professional's perspective, this is the difference. The difference is the government, Department of Labor, gets involved and wants to know, well, what's the offered pay rate? And we have to pay at or above prevailing wage rate. Not to be confused with prevailing wage rate in government.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a term that's going to scare a lot
It's
of people.
local data. It really is local survey data for that job. It takes, I'll give credit to my staff because they do that. It takes them 10 minutes to
figure out
tell
what
you
that
what
is.
the prevailing wage will be. I mean,
And that usually is not a deal breaker. That's
No.
probably what they would be paying anybody
and they have
to
levels.
do the
They have
job,
a
to be
level
competitive.
1 for entry level to level 4
it.
for more senior.
Okay, so you
you
gotta
have to
pay
pay
them.
prevailing wage rate.
Okay.
We are agreeing that there was no discrimination, as in no discrimination. This job was open to any qualified worker,
Okay.
U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or foreign national. So
Okay.
It's just that we
usually
couldn't,
not
right,
an issue
exactly.
that we're
Okay.
not discriminating. And the third issue, I do not view this as a deal breaker, but it is different with the H-1B and some other classifications. We are agreeing to pay return air transportation
Send 'em home.
to their home country. We don't want U.S. taxpayers. If and only if we, the employer, terminate the employment relationship before our requested visa period.
That's
So
a
we
good
can
point.
terminate the employment
We
relationship.
can,
We just have
It's
to
the
buy them a
cost of
plane
the
ticket
term.
home.
yeah. If they choose to go home. I mean,
Oh,
they may say, no, I don't want to go home. I have another job offer, which is often the case
Okay.
nowadays.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Because
So,
I think that holds a lot of people up. I think they think that they are now committing to this employee.
And
right,
it's
for a
just
certain
them.
period of time, and employers generally are
Yeah,
shy about
that's a
that
really
in this
good point.
country, at least.
It's not
really
all
good.
their personal possessions. It's not first-class airfare. It's just, it can be coached.
how many bags
Yeah,
do we have to
yeah,
pay for their
yeah,
luggage
no,
too,
no,
or
no,
just the
that-
person?
no,
If one bag is over 50 pounds.
Yeah. I
That
know we
is-
promised to keep it to 30 minutes. With, immigration law, I could talk for hours. But the other, I think, important piece of information that I want to impart that I think is not well known is thanks to really the George W. Bush administration, many spousal visa classifications, a trailing spouse, have work authorization,
Oh.
what we say incident to that
You can get a
status.
twofer.
Yes, or you let somebody else pay the H-1B fees and you just
Yeah.
take the H-4
Oh, so how do we get that information? Where are the
we can ask
spouses
them.
of the
we
people?
We just ask them, and there's no sponsorship required.
Oh, that's
There's
amazing.
no limitation or requirements on professional level or seasonal work. So we want to be reaching
Wow.
out to these foreign national spouses. The downfall is they're dependent on that principal workers visa.
Yeah.
So we will often,
There's a lack of control, right?
yeah,
for
so, but we
yeah.
can sometimes change that. And then we sponsor them, we think this is a good worker, let's
And we-
take control.
And then the employer could
Right.
sponsor that person into.
But no immediate need, no immediate cost.
You have
Wow,
so
that's
many
fantastic.
solutions
Yes.
to this problem. I mean, truly, when I hear you talk, I think there are so many options for businesses based on what type of industry they're in, what type of positions they're looking for, et cetera. So I think I would just leave the listeners with this. This is a fantastic option. Don't call me or Rebecca on this. But reach out to John, because he's an amazing resource.
No matter
Right.
what the industry or size of an organization, right?
There are
Just-
probably options.
Just ask the question.
Yeah.
Is this something I should be thinking
Yeah,
about?
and is
And it doesn't
exactly.
take us long. I mean, we really can look at a resume and a job description, or just tell us what the job is.
Right.
Right.
And we can tell you, this is going to be an option, or
What we could do.
some work to do.
Or if there,
That's
and
amazing.
even to talk through long-term strategy. For example,
Right.
we talked about schools at the beginning, right?
Right.
Yeah.
If you're doing HR for a school district, call John now, and he's going to have lots of ideas for you to think
Yeah.
through how to address the teacher shortage going forward. So thank you, John, for joining
Thank
us.
you.
This has been
Thanks
awesome.
for having me.
All right.
Hi, Sarah.
Bye.
John.
Bye.